The death of a spouse is a very stressful situation to be in. Your emotions are really high, and a lot of decisions are you're being asked to make lots of decisions that, emotionally you really don't want to have to deal with. Fortunately, retirement accounts are not one of them. I'm Kevin Gaines, American Financial Management Group. I want to help you understand what your choices are, and you do have choices when inheriting a retirement account, whether it's an IRA, 401k, 403b, etc., from your spouse. I want to draw a big distinction that a spouse inheriting a retirement account is different than most anybody else because spouses have options. Typically, if you inherit an account from your Uncle Harry, well, you pretty much only have one choice. You get the account, you get it retitled, inherited IRA of Uncle Harry for my benefit, and you have to take money out, whatever the laws are. Laws just changed at the beginning of this year. So if you inherited it prior to 2020, you have one set of rules. If you inherited it starting in 2020, there's a different set of rules. But it's whatever that rule is, that's what you're going to follow until the account is empty. There's not a whole lot of flexibility involved. However, spouses have the ability to be able to make the retirement account their own. So instead of saying it is inherited IRA of spouse, you can say my IRA, for example. Well, should you do that? A lot of times it makes sense. There's other times when it won't. Generally speaking, if you're under 59 and a half, you do not want to make it your own. You want to keep it as an inherited retirement account. If you're over 59 and a half, typically you will just go ahead and make it your own. However, there's a couple exceptions to each of those. The key thing about 59 and a half is after that age, you're allowed to take money out of a retirement account and you will not pay any early distribution penalties. You'll still have to pay the income tax, but you don't have this 10% penalty that the IRS charges for most IRA withdrawals under the age. There is an exception. Well, there's a few exceptions, but for the purpose of this conversation, there's the death exception to retirement account withdrawals. If you're taking the money out because of the owner's death or because the owner is dead, you don't pay that 10% penalty. So if you're under 59 and a half, the logic goes, keep it and retitle it as an inherited IRA, then you can take the money out whenever you want and you're not paying that 10% penalty. If you were to make the account your own, then because it's now your account, you're the owner, you're not dead, you don't get that death waiver anymore. If you're over 59 and a half, the opposite situation exists. You can take the money out without penalty. So why have it constrained within this inherited IRA titling and subject to certain RMD rules that might require bigger distributions than you would have to take if it was your own, if any. So that's the general rule of thumb, if you will. However, there are, like I said, a couple exceptions here. If you are under 59 and a half and you don't need the money, either because of life insurance, because of your own assets, your own income, and if your spouse was receiving required distributions because they were over the age of 70 and a half, 72 starting in 2020, then if you keep it as an inherited IRA, then you have to start taking those RMDs. And if you don't need the money, why take it? In that situation, you want to look into making those retirement account your own to avoid that required distribution that you do not need. Conversely, if you're over 59 and a half, there is a reason to keep it inherited. What if your spouse was not yet taking required distributions and you're the older partner and you have to take required distributions? Well, in that case, you want to look at keeping it as an inherited retirement account because you'll be able to avoid the distributions because the original owner was underage. And again, this is going to be a situation in which you're not looking to receive the money. Although if for whatever reason a one-off happens, you can still tap the money and yes, you'll pay the income tax, but you're over 59 and a half, so you don't have to worry about paying any penalties or anything if you don't want to or need to. So, those are a couple situations where the generally accepted advice might not work for your situation. And that's always important to remember with pretty much any financial advice you receive or hear throughout the media is the advice you're getting is for a general population. Your particular situation could be very different and require a specific variation. Well, what about the timing of the decision? Well, here again, as a spouse, you have some flexibility that a lot of other people don't. You can make the decision whenever you want. There is no due date that if you don't make the decision to make it your own, because that's the decision you have to make. By virtue of your partner dying, all of the retirement accounts become inherited accounts. So it's then making the decision to make it your own. You can make that 5 years down the road if you want, 20 years down the road. You don't have to make that decision immediately or, with the consequence of you lose the option. So in this time when you're dealing with all of these emotions and stress, this is a decision you don't have to immediately make. Although one last point I'd like to make, I'd say there is an immediate decision you should make. And that is if your partner has to take required distributions, you need to make sure that they have taken them by the end of the year. Otherwise, there could be penalties involved. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, please email us at info@afmgplanning.com. Also check out our website, afmgplanning.com, and find other resources that can kind of help you answer some of the questions you have. Please like this video. Feel free to subscribe to this channel and explore what other subjects we're talking about. But in the meantime, thank you and have a good day.